Austi Chritchfield is a member of the class of 2016. She's going to be talking this morning or this afternoon about building character through community.
I think peer pressure gets a bad reputation. Just those two words conjure up images of bullying, cliques, and drama that should have been left behind in high school, when in reality, peer pressure isn't all that bad. When we strip down the concept to its bare bones, it's just the idea of deriving influence from those around us, and that's one of the main tenets of social identity theory as well as symbolic interactionism. First coined by two psychologists, Mead and Cooley, symbolic interactionism is the idea of the self as a social product. To quote Sharon, a pioneer in the field of symbolic interactionism, individuals are created through interaction. What we do depends on our interaction earlier in our lifetimes, and it depends on our interaction right now. Social interaction is central to what we do. So he's really hammering home this idea of the self as a social product. You sit here, an entity woven of effects from the causes of community. And today, I want to show you how to harness that power of interaction to grow and better your character. We've all heard this phrase, you're judged by the company you keep. Now, if we look at that from the realm of symbolic interactionism, we see that because we are constantly selecting traits we find most appealing or most evocative in those around us and melding them into our own personality, we are becoming the company we keep, and the distinction between you and the company you keep is slowly erased. So now that I've outlined symbolic interactionism and the effect it's had on your character, I invite you to call to mind the communities you belong to. You can actually start to get a pretty good idea of your character. So as you sit here, just think about all the communities you've belonged to, now and throughout your entire life, and consider what effect they've had on your character. And if I could see a quick show of hands, those of you that thought of your family, your friends, coworkers, even sports clubs. Right, but did any of you think of the favorite TV show characters or movie characters? Because I think the media we consume also should be considered a community, seeing as it certainly has an effect on our character. I mean, if you've ever found yourself kind of emulating a favorite TV show character, you now know that symbolic interactionism is to blame. With that in mind, think about the media you consume and add that to your list of communities. You should be getting a pretty interesting picture of why you are the way you are based on the influences you've been surrounded with. So now, recognizing this link between communities and your character, it's now possible to actively join communities that you know will better you, to choose to join those communities. The key word here, though, is choose. As I was preparing for this talk, I realized that we don't always have a choice in what communities we belong to. And now it's possible, with that list of communities that you've sort of compiled just now, to separate them into two groups. There are forced communities to which you innately belong, and then there are voluntary communities to which you choose to belong. Today, I am more interested in talking about voluntary communities, again, because these are the ones that you can actively choose to use to shape your personality. However, I do quickly want to address forced communities just because they do exist and they do have an effect on your character. So, forced communities are something that you innately belong to, usually something that you're born into. Your family, your race, your gender, and your ethnicity are all forced communities. And you know, I was actually talking to one of my friends, and we were talking about the idea of forced and voluntary communities, and she brought up a great point. The after-school clubs that you belonged to when you were little, those are a sort of forced community because 4-year-old you didn't exactly have a say in whether or not you wanted to do gymnastics. So, but back to the idea of family as a forced community. We've all heard the phrase, blood is thicker than water. People love to use that, and it's become synonymous with family first. But what most don't know is that this phrase is derived from the longer phrase, the blood of the brother is thicker than the water of the womb. So what this is saying is actually that the bonds you make with your brothers, with your friends, are going to be stronger than the sometimes arbitrary bonds of the forced communities, like family. And that's why I'm more interested in talking about voluntary communities today. These are things that you choose to join. And what runs common through all voluntary communities, from book clubs to CrossFit devotees to groups of mechanical engineers, is passion for the subject that unites them. When you join a voluntary community, you are guaranteed to have at least one thing in common with the people in that community. However, joining voluntary communities in itself isn't necessarily the key to changing your character. And let me provide you with an example. In 2001, Caspian Roberts of London University did a study on the influence of peer pressure in social interaction. In their conclusion, they wrote, quote, "Friends tend to resemble each other in values, attitudes, and behaviors. Empirical studies suggest groups are similar because individuals choose to affiliate with similar others." In the context of my speech today, this is like looking within yourself, identifying an existing trait, and then projecting outward and looking for communities that match that trait. Like, say I were to look within myself, realize I have an existing passion for, say, cooking, and then project outward and look for communities that also value cooking, like volunteering at the soup kitchen or even a cooking club. While these are voluntary communities that I'm joining, they don't necessarily grow and shape my character. They merely reinforce existing traits. So then, the key to changing your character is, rather than looking inward and then projecting outward to find communities to match, go backwards. Start by looking outward and seeking out groups of people that you know will better yourself. Think of the skills you wish you possessed. Think of the attributes you wish you possessed. These things aren't unattainable. Somewhere out there, there are people with those skills and people with those attributes, and there are communities of those people. The key to changing your character is actively seeking out these people and joining their communities. If that thought makes you uncomfortable, good. It should. It goes completely against what we as human beings are inclined to do. Like Caspian Roberts found in their study, first we start by looking inward and then project outward. I'm asking you to go backwards. I'm asking you to start by looking outward and then surrounding yourself with the people you know will better you and eventually internalize those traits. It's out of your comfort zone, and you're gonna be a little bit uncomfortable. Sorry. I know because I've experienced it. 3 years ago, I was watching the Miss America pageant, and I saw women that I wanted to emulate. They were strong, they were poised, they were intelligent, and they had such a passion for community service. I wanted to be like them, and the only way I knew how was to join a Miss America pageant. And I had no idea what I was doing. When I submitted my resume, it was kind of hodgepodge, no idea how to write a resume. I didn't even know what a platform statement was, and that's a community service organization that you want to work with during your year if you're to win. And let's be honest, I didn't even know how to curl my hair. But my point in telling you this isn't to outline how awkward I was as a freshman. It's to tell you that 3 years later, I stand before you completely assimilated into the Miss America organization. My resume is polished, I obviously know how to curl my hair, and my platform statement has evolved beyond what I could have ever imagined. I'm now actually the founder of a community service outreach called Roots of STEM, which aims to make STEM-based education more accessible and engaging to elementary school students. When I read about the leak in the STEM pipeline, I knew that if I were to address the problem at its root, hence Roots of STEM, that hopefully the kids would foster a lifelong interest for the STEM fields. I applied for a grant for this program, and it's now fully funded and set to launch in January with the Boys and Girls Club. My point is, had it not been for the Miss America pageants, I would have never needed a platform statement, and Roots of STEM would have never even existed. I know that through my involvement in the Miss America organization, not only has my own character been bettered, but hopefully my community is bettered as well. So, what happened from my awkward initial encounter in the Miss America organization to my current complete assimilation, those 3 years in between were symbolic interactionism. Because I put myself into a community where I didn't necessarily feel comfortable, by surrounding myself with the women that I wanted to emulate, I started subconsciously picking up their traits and their values, and I erased the distinction between myself and the company I kept. It's symbolic interactionism, and it can happen to you too. All I ask is that you remember those skills and those attributes that you wish you had, and you continue to seek them out and surround yourself with people with those traits. even if you feel as though you have nothing in common with a certain community of those people, or if you don't belong. I implore you, continue to look outside yourself first anyway, and join those communities. Seek out the people that you want to emulate and join their communities. Social identity theory and symbolic interactionism have your back. I promise that you will one day take on the traits of the people that you surround yourself with. All you have to do is step outside your comfort zone. From there, changing and affecting your character only takes time and a little tolerance for discomfort. Thank you.